we're very positive about the potential in the Chinese economy. It's been subject to a lot of doom and gloom, and you look at the IMF meetings are starting in Washington, and the IMF seems to be continually reducing its estimates of global growth, and it has what we use in our own China report as a low growth outlook for China. We actually think that the surprise globally is that Chinese growth will improve modestly, maybe, as we go through the year, but markedly, and that by the time we get into 2017, people are going to be debating about whether China's growth is actually going to accelerate. And for an economy that still has a relatively low standard of living, and that has yet a huge demographic dividend, with important educational gains and important wage and opportunity gains for its people, we think that China represents an important market for any company, and the more difficult a market is to penetrate, in some sense, the more return there likely is. So I think there is just a lot of upside opportunity, and that you have to learn to deal in the Chinese environment.
Certainly in the consumer sector. So consumer spending. No matter what's happening across China today, the one thing we can say that's true of almost all areas of China is that consumer spending is growing. Certainly e-commerce is not only spurring consumer activity, but it's created a whole new ecosystem for consumption. And so when we look at what companies like Alibaba and JD.com and others have done, is they've added to consumer spending, but they've created this whole new way of spending. I think in China you have this double opportunity where on the one end you have an aging population that's going to be in greater need of healthcare products, pharmaceuticals, elder care facilities, hospitals. That should be and hopefully will be a much bigger opportunity than it is today, but that's something we want to keep an eye on. And on the other end, certainly with the lifting of the one-child policy and the implications there, to offset the aging population, investing in companies who make products and services that cater to children is another big growth sector. What we are seeing is that natural trend of moving away from heavy manufacturing, dirty manufacturing, low value-add manufacturing, towards these higher end, higher value add manufacturing. So you don't have as much volume there, you don't have as many jobs there, and so naturally there's not as much to invest there because the Chinese government is moving in a different direction.
I really think that China is in some sense the wave of the future, that 2 years from now as China's growth rate begins to accelerate, that China's economic power will become an important subject in terms of global debate.